So, let's talk about... I still can't get over how good Season 1 was. I basically knew nothing about the show when it first dropped on Amazon. I didn't start reading comics with any regularity until after college, and since The Walking Dead was such a big deal there for a minute, I'd often hear the book labeled as Robert Kirkman's other long-running series. You'd also see it on a lot of lists about comics that deconstruct the superhero genre, right alongside Powers and The Boys. But while Garth Ennis' series revels in his almost juvenile hatred for superheroes, you can tell Kirkman legitimately loves the genre. He's just not afraid to poke fun at it. And with Season 2 finally arriving, I decided to finally bite the bullet and read all of the comics. As of this writing, I'm about halfway through Kirkman's 144-issue run. For the record, the comic is excellent and I highly suggest you pick it up. But it also had me looking at Invincible Season 1 in a completely new light. Because the show isn't really an adaptation of the comic, it's Kirkman's attempt to rewrite the story from the ground up. And not just in a let's update the humor for the 2020s kind of way, though that is in there, but the changes go all the way down to the story's structure. You might have heard back when the show was first coming out that a lot of the story arcs featured much later in the comic are pulled into Season 1, but it goes deeper than that. Entire storylines spread across dozens of issues are condensed down into a single episode. Certain character dynamics are made much more apparent from the get-go, and a few characters get added screen time and development compared to their book counterparts. It makes for a much better story, and nowhere is that more apparent than with Omni-Man. After reading the first dozen issues of the comic and re-watching the last few episodes, the way the show uses him got me thinking about, of all people, Alfred Hitchcock. Follow me on this one. While younger viewers might not know Hitchcock beyond Psycho, his work helped build the foundation for suspense, thriller, and horror storytelling that is still felt to this day. Hitchcock famously had a theory, sometimes referred to as the bomb theory, in which he proclaimed suspense was a much more powerful emotion than surprise, and could keep an audience engaged for a significantly longer period of time. There are actually quite a few videos of Hitchcock himself explaining this idea. I'll drop the link to one of those in the description. Here are the cliff notes. Imagine you're watching a movie where two people are sitting at a table having a normal conversation, and after 5 minutes, a bomb suddenly goes off from under the table. Naturally, you're surprised by the sudden explosion, but that feeling would only last a few seconds. Now imagine this scene is repeated, only this time you're shown that a bomb is under the table at the start with a 5-minute timer. Suddenly, you're engrossed by the scene. You're hoping with every second that passes, either of the two people will discover the bomb and get to safety. You're angered that they're just chatting away as if they're not in danger. You might even be compelled to yell out to them, knowing full well they can't hear you. No matter what happens, you're locked in until that bomb goes off. And if you need an example to prove this theory, look no further than the Invincible comic versus the show. Starting with the book, and fair warning, the artwork was a little rough during its early years, Omni-Man is a fairly mundane character through the first 6 issues. None of the snark or ruthlessness that J.K. Simmons brings to his performance is on display until after the big reveal. He just acts like a regular dad who happens to be Superman. Then in issue 7, we get our explosion. Omni-Man wipes out this universe's version of the Justice League in a mere 8 panels. 3 issues later, Mark sees his dad kill the Immortal, and 2 issues after that, their father-son fight is already over. Now, the twist that Omni-Man is less kind-hearted Kryptonian and more world-conquering Saiyan is a surprise and is still the turning point that changes the trajectory of the story. But for the comic, it's just one of many surprises. The tension surrounding the character only lasts a few issues and is gone once he leaves the planet. Now look at how the show handles it. We see Nolan kill the Guardians of the Globe at the end of the first episode, and from that point on, he's a walking bomb under the table. We, as the audience, know he's capable of horrific actions, so every conversation and interaction he has from that point onward have an underlying level of tension. Cecil and Damien Darkblood are suspicious from the start, Debbie gradually figures out that he's hiding something, and then there's Mark. The poor kid has no idea what's going on for most of the season. He still thinks his dad is the same old hero, but now every father-son training scene feels like a goldfish swimming around a shark. We have no idea if Nolan is going to snap again, or if he's planning on murdering Mark as well. What happens if Mark finds out? How far is Nolan willing to go in hiding his secret? Every scene might as well have a ticking clock, waiting for that explosion. And when it happens, it's brutal. The book handles Omni-Man's revelation to Mark as very matter-of-fact. He kills the Immortal again, looks at Mark with blood on his hands, gives him the "we need to talk" line, and we're off to the races. But the show handles it so much better. Nolan figures out that Cecil knows about killing the Guardians, goes on a hunt to try and find Mark, has a chilling interaction with William, gets the frickin' Hammer of Dawn dropped on him.
You wouldn't dare.
Has a legitimately great confrontation with Cecil, tries to fight off a frickin' kaiju, and then wipes out the Immortal before finally speaking with Mark. So not only was the build-up more suspenseful, but the explosion was exponentially bigger. Virtually none of the visuals for that entire sequence are in the book. Heck, in the book, Cecil doesn't even get introduced until after Nolan leaves the planet. In conclusion, I love Invincible. I dig the book, but I think the show is doing a significantly better job at telling the story. And I think it's pretty neat that a 2021 animated adaptation of a 2003 comic was able to correctly prove the theory of an iconic 20th century filmmaker who had already been dead for 2 decades by the time Invincible #1 hit the shelves. Thanks for watching.